The talk title, it was given to me, so it's about society. When I think of society, I think high society. I know that term. That's kind of a fluting kind of attitude. But when we think about it, high society, they're high education, high levels of standards, high etiquette, high style, high income, and they live a life of excellence. And that's fine. But the cultural connotation is that if there's a high society, then there's an everything else society. So then those people are like, those high society folk, they're so snobby. And the high society people are like, why are they acting like that? The Model A is that. That's what we know, that's how it goes. That's the way it is. Model B would be if the regular folk said, hey, you seem to have some answers there. Will you teach me? And anybody who knows anything, we feel like we want to share it. So then the answer would be like, yes, of course, do this and this and this and this. Then everybody would be able to be in a different way, that we could change from one society to another through education, through asking, which is a part of our spiritual belief system, that if we ask, we will receive. It's that easy. So the new version of high society, because we don't really use that word anymore, might be like high society. The marijuana industry? So, and instead of society, I come to culture, because culture is a modern word and it has more softness to it. Culture is an acceptance to say, well, that's that culture. And you're like, oh, okay. We don't have to judge it so much. We can approach it with more curiosity, rather than being opposed to it. When I was a child, I grew up in the Detroit area, and my father was a second-generation Sicilian Italian, and my mother came straight from Germany. So we had a lot of culture in our house, European culture. And of course, my mom would attract different cultures as well, Argentine and different people. So as a kid, I was always asking, Daddy, why do those Polish ladies have flowers on their vest? And he's like, well, that's just their culture. That's their traditional dress. They like it. Like, oh, okay. And then we'd go to the German butcher, and there'd be the Italian baker. So we had, even in our own neighborhood, different cultures. In Detroit, we have Greek Town. So you go down there, and everything's Greek. So you go in the restaurant, is the Greek, not only the Greek food, the servers are all Greek. The people in the kitchen are Greek. The decoration's Greek. The music's Greek. The outfits are Greek. You are saturated into a Greek experience, into a culture of the Greekness. And they have a flaming cheese, and they all yell, "Opa!" So I was like, yeah, Greek people are cool. They catch their food on fire. So it's fun just to experience different cultures. So I was always asking. I'm an inquisitive person, an avid learner. And my father probably went crazy, but I was asking why? So Daddy, why do the black man have this music so loud in the car? And he's like, he likes it that way. That's just the way it is. Okay. Daddy, why do the Italians all talk at the same time? Like, why don't they just take turns? He said, because they just have a way of communicating. They can listen and talk at the same time. So as I got to understand the different cultures, I started accepting, oh, this is the way they are. This is the way those people are. This is the way that culture likes it. This is the way, this is the way. Then I started realizing that it's fun to find the different ways of everybody, uniquely so. Instead of saying, oh, that's that and that's that, to say, oh, that's that person right there. And they think this way, and they feel this way, and they dress this way. Oh, and they're always in that kind of mood. Oh, it's that person's culture. Because we each individually are a stack of cultures. Belief systems are cultures within themselves. My friend lives at a hacker house. So she is doing hacking, and their whole world is hacking. So what they do, they're not the bad hackers, otherwise I wouldn't be telling you this, of course. So the companies hire them, please see if you can hack into my system. So I would rather pay you so I know what to fix rather than the bad guys coming in and taking over. So all they do is hack all day and night. And that's a culture. So we see music, different music genres as cultures. We need to learn, like, which culture do we each belong in? I lived in Antigua, as some of you know, for 10 years, and the Caribbean has very many different cultures, and this culture was specifically so. And when I moved there, I said, oh, I'm going to make new friends. I'm going to dig into the culture. I'm going to see what's going on here. And I found out that I was a minority times 3. I was white, I was female, and I was an expatriate. Patriot. So those are 3 strikes against me. I would try to make friends, and everybody was very distant, especially the women. And I thought, what is this? You know, how come these people, like, I know I don't smell. What's going on here? And it was because people that looked like me had done them wrong time and time again. So my profile was untrustworthy. So for 10 years, I wasn't able to make friends with the locals. I kept trying, but that's just the way it is. So you see how I'm saying the way it is all the time, because that's what we accept. Unfortunately, the pandemic is another culture that we're in. And it is a culture of fear, is it a culture of power over, and it is a culture of giving our privileges and rights. And if you kind of look back, it got organized very quickly. So that means it was already known, and it was a culture that was created. We have a screen culture, and that has been developed, and we've watched it step by step by step, and now we're all addicted. And if our cell phones, if the satellites all cut off, there'd be some people who are being in very bad shape. But this is a created culture. Many of our belief systems are already created. And they've been created, maybe manipulated to a certain degree, and then slowly indoctrinated, and we just follow along and follow along and follow along, because that's the way we do, and that's the way we've been taught, and that's what's the agreement. When I looked at the definitions of culture, it really boiled down, for me, in my own words, as agreement of values. So here at the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, we agree in metaphysics. We all say, yeah, that's how it is. Yep, we're practicing that. Yep, we're working on that. In the Judaic system, they would say, well, we have these agreements. And this is how we do, and this is how we do, and this is how we do. Sometimes we don't even realize why we made those agreements in the first place. So it's for us, this work, our spiritual path, is to always take a good look at what am I agreeing to, and which culture does this come from within me? Which belief systems is this flavor of food, and is this music, and is this way it is? What am I accepting about me and the world I live in to say, oh, that's just the way it is? These are the things that we get to be curious about. So when we're looking at things, we want to know, what am I buying into? Where's my preferences? So we have outer cultures. So for instance, we're here at Spiritual Living Center. We're here in Atlanta. That's another culture. Our culture is very different from New York. We talk a little slower, and we say y'all all the time. It's a culture of compatibility. There's a lot of tolerance for each other here in Atlanta. It's a very transient city, and there's very many circles of influences here, all getting along very well. I am proud to be Atlanta, because we're not as judgmental as some of the other cities, more accepting. So we have Spiritual Living Center, we have Atlanta, we have Science of Mind Teaching, which is Centers for Spiritual Living. David Alexander is a particular minister, and I think of him as a scholar in the teaching. We are so lucky to have him. Please take the classes, because our awareness is how we are observing our choices. Our choices are so much on autopilot all the time that we don't realize which culture am I buying into. So he's a scholar. Please take the classes. We're in very fortunate circumstances with him. He's also an advocate. He wants us to take this teaching out into the world and move it. And I really appreciate that, because this teaching can always be la 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 la. But unless we're applying it, we're really missing the whole point here. We are also in the culture of America. We're also under the culture of pandemic. You see, and then each individual has their own references of the culture that they came from, their lineage, their heritage, the town they came from, the different abuses or addictions they've lived through. All of that influences our every thought and our every response. There is also an entire other culture if that's not busy enough. There's an inner culture. So we have animal nature, and we have a spiritual nature. One of my teachers, Allison Armstrong, said we are moving our evolutionary process from the animal human to the spirit human. And that makes perfect sense to me. Throughout history and time, right, we were very horrible and cruel to each other, and now we're more civil. I know, but getting there, right? And then within our individual selves, we have greed and anger, especially fear. And then we also have faith and trust and loving kindness. So these are cultures within us that are always trying to work themselves out. And our consciousness is what clicks from animal to spirit, choice by choice. So when we identify these things, it's much, much easier to navigate through them instead of being a victim of the pre-programming that's going on at all times. The culture that I've been in individually in my own soul has been spiritual path. I'm asking why? And I just search and search. So I'm an eternal student, and I've been studying for years. The next class was ministerial class, and I'm like, I just want the teaching. Bring it on, and look where I am today. But I continue taking classes and classes. My mom used to say, oh, you should be a doctor. You're so smart. I'm like, look, I'm helping people. That's fine. I don't need the piece of paper. The world, I don't care what they think, because I'll just do what I do. This is my path. This is my calling. And I continued studying. Then when I was in California, my professor and teacher there, James Mellon, said, I'm teaching through Emerson Institute. You can get your bachelor's and master's and stuff like that. And I'm like, I never got one of those. That would be so much fun. So I said, but I don't have all that background. And he's like, no. It's within our teaching, within our way, within our culture. And I said, oh, well, I've done a ton of stuff. He said, go ahead and mark down everything you've done, all the classes, all the service work you've done, all the camps you've attended, programs, anything you've done. It took me a week to remember everything that I've done and put it on, check the dates and all of that stuff. And I submitted it. And he came back and he said, oh, you can get your doctorate. I'm like, I think you made a mistake. He's like, no, we checked, double checked. We're good. I checked it. Emerson checked it. I'm like, how could I get a doctorate? He goes, do you see the 3 pages of stuff you've done? And I said, well, yeah, but that's just my life. That's how I do. That's how I roll. And he said, no, it actually qualifies equal. And he broke it even down for me, because I still didn't really get it. And then that course was 300 hours, papers every week, reading several books, and all of that. So you see, I stayed in my cultural lane of what I knew to be true to myself. And because I was able to raise to a certain level, I can cross culture. And now I have a title that other people identify and say, oh, she's at that level in her field. So the 300 hours and all the papers and all the books, and I had to write my own book, which is coming out one day soon. I don't know when exactly. So I was able to cross culture. There is sometimes like that when our two worlds will come together. At the end of that course, Dr. Mellon said, I have a surprise for you. And one of the hardest books in that course was by Paul Levy, and he wrote a book called Conscious Revelation, Quantum Revelations. This man is so intelligent and so specific. He had 35 pages of references in the back. I was like, dang, this guy's brilliant. So Dr. James Mellon said, we were taking classes on Zoom. I was living in Atlanta, so my class started at 10:30 at night till 1 o'clock every Thursday. We got on the screen, and he pops up, and Paul Levy was this little petite man, silver hair, kind of like Einstein looking, and he had a wool cap on in the middle of summer. And I thought, this guy's really unique. He has his own little culture, you can see. And on the wall in his office was a tonka, and a tonka is a spiritual prayer tool made of silk, and it has a little cover, and there's usually a painting of a guru, and then you use that as a piece of work that you pray, and it reminds you and all of that. And this tonka had my lineage of pranic healing, Padmasambhava. And I was so excited. I was like, what? How could that be? This guy's like a quantum mechanics professor. And how does he know? How does he know Padmas? Is that him? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was him. And I was like, oh. And Dr. James, I'm a little weird, as if you don't know already, but he's like, oh no, Ursula wants to ask a question. I wonder what she's going to ask. And I'm like, he said, okay, Ursula, I see you have a question. I'm like, yeah. Is that Padma Saba Sabi Baba Abi Daba Do? And not exactly like that, but I got it wrong for sure. And Paul Levy's quite serious, and he's like, no. That's Padmasambhava. And I said, yeah, that's who I was. Yeah. Do you know pranic healing? And he said, no. And I said, well, how do you know? How do you know him? And he said, well, he's the highest level of teaching that we have here on the planet when it comes to quantum physics and understanding the universe as an energetic field. I'm like, yeah, that's right. So my two worlds collided together and blew my mind. And because of that cross culture that just happened, I was elevated, energetically speaking. So when we dedicate to a culture that's driving us inside, it can elevate us and get to a certain point of excellence and then cross culture. We can be on this spiritual path, but then all of a sudden we're on another spiritual path. That combination really excavates everything and brings us through a whole nother experience. So I encourage you, I tell you these stories about me to say that's the same for you. If I can do it, so can you, because I am you. And you wouldn't be here listening to me if this message wasn't relevant to you. So these two worlds moving from inner, our animal nature to our spirit nature also makes me understand that there's this crazy idea of worthlessness, and who put that into our programming, because I'm here to tell you, everybody, except for narcissists, think that something's wrong with them, that they're just not worthy. And I say, gee whiz, God gave us an identity, a culture, a family, talents and traits that only we have very specifically. And worthlessness. Like, what's the deal? Everything was great, and then you got to put that one in there? And after contemplation and prayers and study and patience, I figured out that our animal nature really messes everything up. And that's the part that feels unworthy of these wonderful things. Our spirit nature is like, of course I have these talents. Of course I have this amazing heritage. Of course. So when we can start shifting the culture of our animal nature with the culture of our spirit nature, then our spirit nature can claim all these things that we sing about and talk about here, teach about, because it is our innate nature to have that beauty and that. My thing is become aware so we can make better choices, so we can choose heaven on earth. Because our teaching says you can create your own reality. We perceive everything through our references. Our references are our cultural programming, our cultural joys, our cultural, this is the way it is. When we just say, okay, who am I today? Who am I in this thought? Am I being my animal nature or am I being my spirit nature? So animal nature, fear. Okay, so if I'm being fear and insecure and like, oh, I don't know, and worry, oh, the worry track, that's no fun. Then it's so heavy and it's so bulky and it's not fun and it's crabby. If I can say, oh, wait, oh, I'm having one of those animal nature thoughts, let me shift into a different awareness and make a different choice, what would my angelic self, what would my spirit self say in this particular situation? It would say, I love you, that's okay. I make mistakes all day long because I'm human and I understand this. So I make a mistake and then this part of me makes a mistake and this part of me says, I love you. And this part says, that's okay. Now we're good, we got this. So all day long, but guess what? This part of me doesn't take over in that case. So when we start understanding what goes on in our mind, in our subconscious from all of these cultural influences, we can choose and we can have compassion and greater understanding. And when there's pain associated with these things, we can heal it. That's what I do for a living. I get to go into the subconscious with people and heal out these hooks of cultural beliefs, primarily the not good enough one. And when that hook is outside of our influence, we can more often shift over to this beautiful side of our life and our choices. That makes perfect sense, right? And it's easy enough to do. And what's the answer? Love. What's always the answer? Love. When we have a conflict with another person, they say forgiveness. Forgiveness is about understanding where that person is coming from and understanding our wound that they triggered. Say, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's mine. Okay, I'm going to own that one. And then why do they got to be such a jerk? And then to not take that attitude, because why do they got to be such a jerk from here doesn't go very far. But, why did they have to be such a jerk from our spiritual side? Then we can see what are their cultural influences. Why are they acting that way? Then we can have compassion for their suffering. You know, hurt people, right? So something in them is making them feel like a jerk and they're spraying it on me. Oh, great, I have an opportunity to heal the trigger that they just pushed. Thank you, brother. Thank you, sister. Thank you, person. So you see, we can just start switching and calming the whole system down, creating our own culture because we get to choose. So just like I created a spiritual path culture for my own self and look where it got me, we can create our own culture. I teach a class called Self-Mastery, and we just did our vision mission statement for ourselves, not our work or whatever, but just for ourselves. And Johnny happens to be sitting right here, and his is about loving kindness. He's one of the most kind people you'll ever meet. And he now claims that and understands that. I am here to be kind. And if he's kind to himself and to everybody else around, he's living his purpose. He's living that innate gift and talent that he was given, that was God given, right? We're all little units of energy. Universal consciousness expressing itself through each of us. So yes, I am identity, I am all my cultures, and I am my animal self, and I am my natural, angelic self, or spirit self. Everything you see here is an idea. It started as an idea. Why would it be different than I'm an idea originally? And on top of that, I have a mental body, an emotional body, a physical body. But the idea, my soul, was here before this was incarnated and will carry on after. So if I have the culture of that belief, look where it's going to get me. Our brain is just pre-wired all the time. So my brain says, oh, I know, you always take a left turn here. So in the groove, between all that messiness in my brain, there's a little groove. It says left turn here. When you get on this street, you turn left. So every time I do, I just turn left, I just turn left. My cultural says this is the way it is. So every time I see something that triggers my cultural, like a food, right? Pavlov's dog, it's the same. You see that Christmas bakery thing from the Italian culture, and you get all excited. But then if I'm gluten-free, I can't eat that thing anymore. So my brain says, oh yeah, you like that food, you like that food, you like that food. And I say, well, I have to make a different decision. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, I have to make a different decision. So our brain wants to do that cultural groove. Sometimes in our DNA, it's inherited that our people were like this. Okay, well, is that working for you? Because if not, then we make another choice. So we have to get away from that left hand, that automatic left-hand turn, and move into a new culture that we can create to really, really flourish and be our best selves. So I just want to make sure here. Yes. So the other culture that's going on here in this pandemic that we're in and that we're coming out of, they say we're coming out of it, but I don't really trust it because I know the nature of man. The problem with power is it corrupts. Unless we're humble and unless we're in a community that's really supporting us to be our best selves. So when there's people in power over and there's everybody else that was trained and put to sleep to just follow along and this is the way it is and we're in a culture now where you're just following along, you're not asking any questions and everybody just go to sleep. Papa will take care of you. Well, how do I know Papa is my Papa and Papa's got my best interest in mind? Because I'm thinking not, because something inside me says, take care of yourself, girl. So how do we stay in the culture of this pandemic, but be highly responsible for what we're doing, who we're following, what we're believing, and what we're just saying okay to, whether we know it or not? So I'm asking all of us here to just stay awake and stay true to ourselves and ask questions when we're being told, just come this way, just come this way. Why and where are we going? We don't even ask where we're going. If you notice the GPS systems, they only tell you the next turn. They don't really show you the whole map. You have to manipulate to see the whole map. Say, okay, now I know what roads. They just say, oh, just follow me. I'm going to give you the next turn. We're not really supposed to trust that. We're supposed to trust this, our inner world, our inner teaching. When we sit quietly in meditation, we're listening. We're not really asking, because who asks is the ego, the animal nature. I want this, I want that, I want. Okay, kid, sit down. If our spirit nature just says, okay, what's in my highest and best? What's in my most aligned way? Then greater gifts will come through. But we have to be still and listen. If we're in fear, we're not listening to this. So we just want to listen to the best that has to be offered. So we can trust our inside and don't worry about everybody else on the outside. We are creating an inner culture of peace and love. So let's turn into a spiritual mind treatment. So if you would please uncross your arms and legs. And feel your seat in your body. Breathing in through the crown and having that breath go all the way out through our feet. And thinking of that thing that's beating our heart and breathing our lungs, the evidence that we are much more than our thoughts and our feelings, our story, our culture. We are greater than those things. That's secondary. That's our animal nature. Our spiritual nature is eternal. It's beautiful. It's what keeps the animals running around, feeding themselves, teaches the birds how to fly, keeps the planets from bumping into one another. There's an intelligence there and inside. There's a power that we have not been taught. The atom bomb is a few atoms. We're trillions of atoms. Love. Love is expressed in order, in kindness, in cooperation. Love is expressed in intuition, instinct, and what's been put in our heart to express. I am, you are, we are. Intelligence, love, and power expressing itself individually. How fun is that? When we choose our culture chooses us. And when we choose the aligned culture, the culture of love, we can't go wrong. The culture of understanding and appreciation. Take these words for yourself, if you will. I am love. That is the core truth of me. My nature is spiritual, beyond all of this chaos and physical. I am highly resourced. When we think of that high society, one of the things that you can say about them is they are resourced. We are in a new high level of consciousness, and that primarily is our resource. All the answers come from there. I hear my spirit. I am still enough to listen to my intuition. When I'm in alignment, everything goes smooth and life is fun and easy. I'm so grateful. I'm filled with gratitude. I wake up thankful. My life is blessed because I allow it to be, regardless of what's happening. The path is easy and clear. I am here on purpose. Humility will get me through any kind of conflict. My animal nature likes to follow my spirit nature. I choose my cultures. I choose my childlike nature as I move through the life in awe, in wonderment, in gratitude. Releasing this into the consciousness in full faith. And to just repeat the affirmation for today, I affirm an inner culture of peace and love. Knowing that the universe will bring me the same. Namaste, everyone. Thank you very much.